One of my favorite things about the Pokemon trading card game is just how different the pool of Pokemon is in high-level play compared to the video game. As I mentioned in my Budew video, baby Pokemon can be really powerful in the card game, while in the video game they serve no purpose. The card game has completely different mechanics and rules, and it can be a place where underappreciated or scarcely seen Pokemon thrive. One of the most significant examples of this in recent memory is Dusknoir. In the video game, Dusknoir has always been pretty terrible. It's designed as a bulky ghost type, but it has very limited options in its move pool. It lacks good healing or utility. The low base 45 HP is not doing it any favors, and as an offensive threat, it also only has a 100 base attack, which is not impressive. The saddest part of it all is that Dusknoir is actually outclassed by its own middle stage evolution, Dusclops, who can equip the Eviolite and achieve superior defensive value, since it's not fully evolved. However, in the card game, Dusclops and Dusknoir received new cards in the recent Shrouded Fable expansion that pushed them to the forefront of the competitive metagame. This new Dusclops card has an ability. Abilities are unique effects on Pokemon cards that either have passive benefits or they have some sort of effect that can be used. Dusclops is the latter. When you activate the Dusclops ability, it allows you to place 5 damage counters onto one of the enemy's Pokemon. After doing that, your Dusclops will knock itself out. Now, knocking out your own Pokemon might sound bad, because in doing so you are giving your opponent a prize card. One of the win conditions in the Pokemon card game is to draw all 6 of your prize cards, so you are bringing your opponent closer to victory. But placing 5 damage counters onto any enemy Pokemon is a really powerful effect. 1 damage counter is equal to 10 damage, so you can basically deal 50 damage to anything you want. And this is often enough to KO a low health baby Pokemon that is trying to evolve. This is a 1-for-1 trade. You get a prize card and they get a prize card, but you are more intentional with what you're targeting and you're restricting their game plan, preventing them from evolving a Pidgey into a Pidgeot, for example. What's really powerful about this Dusclops ability too is that it is able to target Pokemon on the bench, not just the active Pokemon. Usually Pokemon on the bench are safe in many cases, but there are certain effects that can target the bench, and this is one of them. Sometimes these decks that are aiming to evolve into powerful Pokemon really need to protect the baby Pokemon on their bench, so they run a support like Manaphy to help protect their bench. Manaphy has the ability Wave Veil, which is a passive effect. This ability prevents all damage done to your benched Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. However, the wording is very particular here. This only grants an immunity to damage dealt from attacks. Dusclops is not using an attack, and Dusclops' ability also says that it's just placing damage counters, which is different to dealing damage directly. It's a bit confusing, it took me a while to wrap my head around this, but basically Dusclops ignores most of these passive effects that guard your bench, which is what makes it really strong. Dusclops can also be used to apply chip damage to the enemy's active Pokemon, putting them into range of an attack that they otherwise would have survived. This is particularly powerful in the Charizard EX deck, because Charizard EX has an attack that deals more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. Since you're knocking out your own Dusclops, you are giving the enemy a prize card and buffing up your damage on Charizard EX. It's very synergistic. So this Dusclops card is already very good and very useful. But the Dusknoir card, the next stage in the evolution line, is even better. Dusknoir also has a Cursed Blast, but this one places 13 damage counters on an enemy Pokemon, not just 5 damage counters. This means it can deal 130 damage to an enemy Pokemon, which is a significant amount of damage. This is not able to just KO baby Pokemon. This is able to KO a lot of even fully evolved utility Pokemon or middle stage Pokemon. If you use the rare candy item, you are able to evolve a Pokemon and skip their middle stage. So you can evolve Duskull straight into a Dusknoir and use this powerful Cursed Blast to eliminate something important on your enemy's side and really ruin their game plan. These Dusclops and Dusknoir cards have been kind of controversial. A lot of people hate them because it's difficult to play around them sometimes. They are able to eliminate your benched Pokemon, and it's difficult to keep your Pokemon safe from them as well. Another way that you can win in the Pokemon card game is if your opponent has no Pokemon left in their active spot or on their bench. So another thing that can be frustrating about these Dusknoir and Dusknoir cards is that they are able to KO multiple Pokemon at once, enabling a win condition where you just delete all of their Pokemon in a single turn. If you evolve 3 Duskulls into Dusknoirs, for example, Cursed Blast and remove every single Pokemon on the enemy side and win on like turn 2. It can happen. I understand the frustration towards these cards, but I personally enjoy using them. The first card game I really got into was Hearthstone, and something that I really miss in the Pokemon card game is spell cards. There aren't really any spell cards here. There are item cards that can search your deck and do different effects, but the item cards don't really feel like spell cards. You can't cast a fireball on an enemy Pokemon from your hand or silence them or anything like that. Dusknoir kind of feels like a removal spell from other card games I've played. A way to specifically target something on the enemy side, without ending your turn either, because it's not an attack. It might be a little bit overturned, I'll give you that, but I like the idea of it. Perhaps that's an unpopular opinion, but that's how I feel. Another Pokemon card that is significantly better than its video game counterpart is Munkidori. Munkidori is a very recent Pokemon from Gen 9. It's a new legendary, and in the video game this was a very underwhelming Pokemon. This Pokemon's speed of 106 is quite slow for Gen 9 standards, and it's very vulnerable to common attacks because of its poison psychic typing, leaving it weak to ground, ghost, and dark type attacks. 130 special attack is impressive, but with poor bulk and below average speed compared to some competition, it simply isn't a very good choice competitively. But in the card game, the Munkidori card is absolutely outstanding. First of all, Munkidori is a basic card, meaning it doesn't have to evolve. That automatically makes it really nice and really easy to fit into decks. And Munkidori's ability, Adrenabrain, is absolutely incredible. It reads as follows. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon has a dark energy attached, you may move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. That's a lot of words, you might not know what this means, but basically, to activate this ability you gotta put a dark energy on the Munkidori, which is not much to ask. As I talked about with the Dusknoir, 1 damage counter is equal to 10 damage. When a Pokemon on your side takes damage, damage counters are placed onto them to represent how damaged they are, obviously. So with this ability, you can effectively heal your Pokemon, removing up to 30 damage from them in the form of damage counters, and putting those damage counters now onto any one of your opponent's Pokemon. This combines a healing effect with some form of damage dealing, and what's amazing about it as well is that you can put multiple Munkidoris on your bench, and as long as all of them have a dark energy attached, you can do this once per Munkidori each turn. In a vacuum, this is fantastic, and you can deal serious damage over the course of a game with Munkidori alone. But what's also so good about this is that it synergizes perfectly with the card Gardevoir EX. Gardevoir EX is a powerful card that you have to evolve to be able to use. Gardevoir EX has the powerful ability Psychic Embrace. Unlike other abilities I've talked about so far, this one can be used as many times as you want per turn, which is crazy. When you activate this ability, you can attach a basic psychic energy from the discard pile to one of your Pokemon, and when you do so, you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. So basically, this is a way to get a bunch of energy onto a Pokemon very easily, but at the cost of dealing damage to them. However, if you have a Munkidori or 2 on the bench, you can heal off all the damage that you take from this Gardevoir EX ability and actually deal damage to the enemy in the process. Sometimes the Munkidori ability is a bit awkward because your own Pokemon are not damaged and therefore you can't transfer damage onto the enemy like you want to. But Gardevoir EX has this ability that damages your own Pokemon while putting a bunch of energy onto them, and then your monkeys can conveniently heal up all the damage you just took, so it's all upside from there. This is the crux behind the powerful Gardevoir EX strategy, and Munkidori is one of the chief enablers of this deck, and a powerful card in its own right that fits in many different decks. Congratulations to Munkidori for being an outstanding Pokemon card. Finally, I'd like to talk about 2 more Pokemon that suck in the video game but are amazing in the card game, and these 2 Pokemon actually synergize with each other to become broken. The Pokemon I'm talking about are Archeops and Cinccino. So let's talk first about Archeops. In the video game, Archeops is a pretty atrocious Pokemon. This is a fossil Pokemon released in Gen 5, and despite its impressive stats, it has the ability Defeatist, which causes its attack and special attack to be halved if it is below half health. It doesn't really matter how good your stats are when the common occurrence of being at a low HP totally nullifies your damage output and makes you useless. Defeatist was obviously designed as an Achilles heel to a Pokemon with above average stats, and this drawback is far too great for the Pokemon to function competitively. In the card game, the design of Archeops is similar. Archeops has an incredibly powerful ability called Primal Turbo. Once during your turn, Primal Turbo allows you to search your deck for 2 special energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon. Abilities that allow you to attach energy directly like this, especially ones that search your deck for the energy, are outstanding. And special energy cards are a specific type of energy cards with powerful effects. But the process of getting an Archeops on the field is the hard part. To get an Archeops on the field, you first have to play an item card called the Unidentified Fossil. This is a rare example of an item card that acts as if it were a Pokemon. You can play this on your bench and it has 60 HP. However, it's a fossil and it has no attacks or abilities. It doesn't do anything. You can evolve this fossil into an Archon on your next turn. Archon being the baby form of Archeops. Archon is also pretty bad for a second stage evolution with only 80 HP and fairly underwhelming attacks. But then the next turn, you can evolve this Archon into an Archeops and start using that powerful Primal Turbo. But you can see the significant cost associated with this. Having to play these pretty weak cards on your bench, leaving you open to attacks, and also meaning that for a while you can't really do much. However, there is a pretty fun way to bypass all of this work and just get the Archeops on the field directly, and that is with the help of the Pokemon Lugia V-Star. If you're not a card gamer, all these words are perhaps confusing to you. I apologize. But work with me here. Listen to me, because this is important. The V-Star Pokemon are a bit weird, because they are evolved versions of themselves. First, you have to play the Pokemon Lugia V, and then that Pokemon next turn can evolve into Lugia V-Star, as if it was an evolution. It's kind of strange, but that's how it works. V-Star power is a unique mechanic in the card game that I would probably compare to something like Z-Moves. It is a one-time use, really powerful ability that you can never use again. You can only use one V-Star power per game. Lugia V-Star has the V-Star power called Summoning Star. Forgive me for how often I've just said star. I'm saying real words here. And this is yet again another word salad, but don't worry, I'll explain it in terms that make sense in just a moment. During your turn, you may put up to 2 colorless Pokemon that don't have a rule box from your discard pile onto your bench. So what does that all mean? Basically, rule boxes are on Pokemon with keywords like EX or V-Star. For example, Lugia itself has a V-Star rule box on the bottom of the card that you can see there, and all the EX cards have the same. But guess what? Archeops does not have a rule box, so theoretically, you could purposefully discard your Archeopses and put them in the discard pile, and then use Summoning Star to get 2 Archeopses directly onto your bench without having to evolve them from the fossil and do all that nonsense. With 2 Archeopses on the bench, you can start putting a bunch of energy onto your Pokemon and doing really powerful attacks in single turns. It is an incredibly powerful combo, and this is the crux of the Lugia V-Star strategy, is abusing this Archeops ability and absolutely jamming your deck full of powerful special energy cards that you can summon at will. And one of the chief abusers of these special energy cards is Cinccino. Remember him? Remember Cinccino, who I referenced earlier? In the video game, Cinccino is a pretty average early game normal type. It's not the worst Pokemon in the world. It does have 2 good abilities in the form of Technician and Skill Link, as well as a nice move pool to take advantage of that with options like Bullet Seed and Tail Slap. Cinccino centers around using multi-hit moves that are boosted by either Technician or Skill Link. But at the end of the day, this is a weak Pokemon with only 95 attack and an unexciting normal typing. However, what's going on the Cinccino Pokemon card? Well, take a look at this attack right here called Special Roll. This attack costs minimum of 2 colorless energy, and this attack does 70 damage for each special energy card attached to this Pokemon. Perhaps you've put the pieces together already. With the help of your 2 Archeopses on the bench, you can spam a bunch of special energy onto this Cinccino and deal absurd amounts of damage, 70 per energy attached. This allows Cinccino to one-hit KO even some of the bulkiest Pokemon in the game, like Charizard EX, who has over 300 HP. You do have to play a Minccino first and evolve it into Cinccino, but it's only a 1-stage evolution, and it's not that hard to get these Cinccinos set up to start dealing more damage than anybody's ever seen. I think it's pretty fun that this little mouse is able to one-shot big legendaries and EX Pokemon and what have you. The damage potential from Cinccino is crazy, and it is enabled by Archeops, another garbage Pokemon from the video game. In the video game, if I saw a team with Archeops and Cinccino on it, I would be thankful for the free win. But in the card game, if you see these two Pokemon together, you are probably panicking. So those are some of the most significant examples of Pokemon that suck in the video game but dominate the card game. Who is your favorite of these powerful Pokemon cards? Don't hate me, but I like the Dusknoir. I like to explode the enemy with a Cursed Blast, but that's a controversial thing to say. What do you think though? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.